will call the September meeting of the Vermont State Employees Retirement System to order. The first item on our on the agenda is the agenda itself. Is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Beth. There's a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Thank you, John. With that, is there any discussion on the motion to approve the agenda? Seeing none, I think the ayes in favor of approving the agenda, please signify with an aye.
Aye.
And those opposed with a nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The agenda is now approved. That was sent in the packet. With that, are there any announcements this morning? I have a couple. So if anyone else has any, please feel free to join in. I want to thank Jay. I don't see him on the call yet. He might be on another screen though, for chairing the meeting last month. I was not able to attend and gave Jay short notice, and I thank him for stepping in and chairing that meeting on short notice. I also want to recognize the current alternate for the Vermont State Employees Retirement as a VSEA representative has joined us this morning, Corey Lozier, and he will be a voting member today as Bruce King was not able to, could not attend the meeting. So thank you, Corey. Feel free to introduce yourself as well. You know, I know the folks on this board haven't had a chance to join you in a meeting yet.
All right, yep. Morning, everyone. Name's Corey Lozier. I'm currently the station commander in Williston. Been with VSP for over 20 years. This is all very, very new to me. I'm first in my world, but definitely not this one, but happy to be here. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Corey. We appreciate it as well. With that, the next, before I move on, any other announcements this morning? Thank you. With that, our second order of business this morning is approval of the minutes from the August meeting. As I mentioned in the first order of business, I was not present for that meeting, so I'm going to abstain from the minutes when the time does come. Does the board have a pleasure on the minutes themselves?
Mr. Chair,
yes.
If I could just interject for a second, there was an error in the very last page. The last motion to adjourn was made. It says Mr. Bruce. It should have been Mr. King. Bruce pointed that out to us, so we will recommend amending the minutes to reflect that as being Mr. King making the motion.
Okay. Would anyone like to put a motion forward, perhaps recognizing Tim's edit?
I'll move to approve the minutes with the noted correction.
Thank you, Beth. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, John. So the motion is now up for a vote. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Any more discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I think we can move on to the vote. Bill, could you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Eric.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Adam.
Yes.
John.
Yes.
Beth F.
Yes.
Beth T,
Yes.
and Corey.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes.
Yes. 5-0.
Do you have it?
Sorry.
Thank you, Bill. With that, the minutes of the August 2025 meeting are approved. Thank you. Moving on to public comment. Are there any members of the public present that would like to make any comments before the board this morning? I'm perusing the squares here, and I do not see any members of the public. So I'm just going to give it another moment here, but I don't think I think we can move on to the next agenda item unless anyone disagrees. But I'm not seeing any members present, so we will move on. The next item on the agenda is the investment policy statement and the process for adoption presented by RBK. But Tim, I don't know if you want to speak to this before turning the floor over to RBK.
Sure.
Your pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this may be a relatively quick item. At our last meeting, we had an in-depth presentation of the investment policy statement and kind of walk through key considerations and how we came to draft it with basically starting with the general philosophy reflected in VPIC's investment policy statement, adopting it to our circumstance here for the 457 plan, and then iterating back and forth between staff and RVK to develop what we have in front of you. We wanted to give the board a couple meetings with this because it is a pretty foundational document. It's a living document that we will return to over the coming years. Over the last month, staff does not have any further edits, and I didn't receive any from board members. So happy to hear if anyone, upon further review of it, has any concerns. But absent that, we would recommend that the board move to adopt the investment policy statement and watch list policy as included in the materials for today's meeting.
Beth T, I see you have your hand raised. Floor is yours.
Just a quick question. Does this policy replace an existing policy, or is it the first time that we've had a policy?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is the first time that we've had a policy, to my knowledge. Maybe years in the past there was one, but I could not find one in any of the old files. And we thought, as we were, trying to reset how we approach our supplemental plans, that this was really a critical first step to kind of articulate the philosophy of governance in this document.
Thank you, Tim. I have another question as well on the process. So after we adopt the statement, what's the anticipated review process? Is this something we revisit annually?
Yes, this would be on the annual checklist of reviews, and Sarah can provide any color on that that I may be missing. The goal of this document, and you see it reflected in there, is to be to have guiding principles, but not be so rigid and inflexible that we can't adapt to new circumstances. And most important, as I said before, it's a living document. So I think we can talk about right now, ESG and fiduciary oversight is a hot topic, and guidance from DC seems to change with administration. It could be that as that conversation shifts in one direction or another, it's important to revisit that topic. It could be something develops in the marketplace that would require us to come back to it. So including a regular schedule of revisitation is important, and that's something that, with the help of RBK, we're going to be putting on the calendars going forward.
Yeah, it's certainly something that we recommend for all our clients. It's not a requirement to do it every year. There are clients that do it every other year. And certainly when, as Tim mentioned, when we put together the draft, we did include language in there about periodic reviews of the policy statement, but we didn't want to, tie you all to an annual review cadence just in case, but this will be our recommendation, and hopefully we'll take a look at that along with staff every year and make sure to present any recommendations at least once a year.
And from my end, just final color on that, it may be that in the future we kind of maybe dial back, but I think this is a new muscle we're kind of using. I think at least early on, I would like to have this on an annual basis.
Thank you. That makes sense to me, that and also speaking of the flexibility, that if our goal is to do 1 year in the outset, but allow ourselves flexibility, not speaking to that specifically in the document itself makes sense, and having that as a policy, aside from the statement, I think is appropriate. John, I see your hand is raised. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you for giving us time with this, because I don't think I was focused during the presentations last time around that this policy is focusing on our specific state retirement needs, say, like you mentioned a few minutes ago, 357B plans. And I don't see it reflected in the policy language itself. Can someone clue me in? What is there about this policy that which section I should be looking at that does involve those things particular to state employee retirement systems?
So I'm happy. Would it make sense if I share a draft of the policy, Tim?
Yeah, sure.
Just to make
That'd be
sure.
great. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. So we put in front of you all two different policy documents, one for the 457 plan and one for the single deposit investment account. And you will, as you review them, you will notice that there are differences there in the language specific to, for example, the investment structure. The fiduciary for each of the individual plans is different. In this case, it's the VSERS board, and the structure has 3 tiers: target date tier, passively managed options, and actively managed options, and a subjective brokerage. So the policy statement itself looks to define the goal of the investment menu, its general structure, and then the specific to the 457 plan, it speaks to the fiduciaries of the plan, the different roles for the board, the staff, and us as your consultant. And then that's just the general, of course, certain areas like investment manager monitoring, these are consistent across plans. And then, of course, the recommended cadence for doing proxy investment policy reviews or fee analysis. We define or flag certain items for periodic reviews in there. And then the proxy voting policy itself is specific to the 457 plan, where you have the ability to invest in pooled investment products, and then also you fully delegate the proxy voting of shares to the managers. In other plans, like the 403B plan, for example, the approach of proxy voting is different. So there will be differences like these across the policy statements. I flagged the items that are different for the single deposit investment account and the 457 here for you all. The single deposit being focused on capital preservation. Its investment structure is different. It's we know that it is focused on providing a capital preservation option for participants who choose to retain their assets in the plan. Now, of course, the fiduciary for the single deposit investment account is different as well. It's a joint fiduciary role between the VSERS and the VSERS boards. So these are some of the differences there to account for the plan specific characteristics. Is there anything to add to that?
No, I think I just wanted to add that this does not apply to anything that we would do in our defined benefit oversight. This is just to make that abundantly clear that this is going to be squarely focused on our oversight and review of the 457 and the SDIA plans.
Thank you. John, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think I wasn't clear that this was only governing the defined contribution. I see that now.
Yeah.
I will say I'm in the documents I have in front of me, I have the documents that speak to the defined contribution plan. This question made me look for the 457 plan, and I'm
Okay.
not seeing it. I'm wondering if I missed a document when I was grabbing them.
Yeah, I don't have anything with the heading as shown right now. That's
Okay,
says 457.
I'm seeing that as well. It looks like we put the wrong document in this folder. Bill, if you could upload the 457, that was the one we presented last meeting was the 457 and the SDIA plan. This one I'm seeing now is the defined contribution plan that governs the defined contribution plan that is overseen by the treasurer. So the one we presented last month to the board was the 457 and the SDIA plan, and that's what we had intended to include in the materials this month.
Tim, is this time sensitive in nature?
We can definitely push this to next meeting if that's your pleasure. I think that makes sense. I apologize for the slip.
Of course. I think it would be my pleasure.
Yeah.
With that, how would folks feel about a motion to table until next meeting?
Absolutely. I would want to review it again, and I realize I've reviewed the wrong one.
I'm honestly, I'm in the same boat. So I would like to move to table this until the next meeting. Is there a second?
I'll
Second. Second.
All those in favor, please signify with an aye.
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 All those opposed with a nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. So this motion will be tabled and with the expectation that it be taken up at the next meeting for approval.
Again, my apology, members. That was a miss on our part.
Of course, no, it happens. No issues there. We can take it up at the next meeting. Thank you for the question, John, and for everyone's flexibility. It's appreciated. The next item on the agenda is I lost my screen here. Is the fall scheduling the fall meetings when we have our actuarial evaluations and things. We have an extra meeting on our calendar, and we have an in-person meeting coming up. So a lot of moving parts come the fall. Tim, there's a memo outlining this, but I just wanted to give you a chance to speak to it as well.
Yeah, I think the big thing that we wanted to flag here is we had initially pitched, I believe it was the 23rd of October, the Thursday, for actuarial evaluation meetings at the beginning of the year when we were calendaring. In discussions with Siegel, that was there's some conflicts for them, and Matt wouldn't have been able to do it. And so I would prefer to have him available. I think the others are great and can manage it, but I would prefer Matt to be available for the meetings. And so the 28th worked for that, and it still gives us enough time to get our letter together for November 1st to transmit to the legislature and the administration outlining the ADEC. So that's really the moving piece. The rest, we were just trying to kind of give a sense of what we have planned. November meetings, I think for this board would be at the same time, but we would propose to have that in person and kind of move along the general framework we did before. Our expectation there, having met Matt, our pension actuary, in the spring, we'd like to bring Yori, who is our OPEB actuary, out to deliver that valuation in November. And I think we're still thinking through whether or not what, if any, additional meetings we would have, or sorry, topics we would add to the agenda. And if anyone has any suggestions, we're all ears and welcome to hear that.
Thank you, Tim. We can take discussion on we can have discussion on the when there's the motion on the floor, unless there's questions or comments that we might want to take before that.
And Mr. Chair, in our mind, I wasn't necessarily proposing a motion for this one.
Okay.
I think it was more, this is more in the nature of wanting to give folks, I think generally when we've moved scheduling around, we haven't done it by motion, but we just want to make sure that everyone's good with it.
Fair enough. Thank you for the procedural suggestion. Yeah, I didn't know if because maybe the October 28th wasn't the scheduling of that was newish. That might require a motion, but if it doesn't, then that's okay. I have one comment that the October 28th meeting does conflict with a VPIC meeting on the same date. I have communicated with Jeff Briggs, who's the VSERS VPIC representative, and just made sure that he would be able to attend the VPIC meeting for VSERS on that date, and he can. So I have no issue with splitting. As the alternate to that board, I would normally attend, but I will attend the VSERS meeting, and Jeff will attend the VPIC meeting for VSERS. Beth F., floor is yours.
Hi, can you remind me of the date you're talking, or the date and time for the meeting?
The VSERS, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tim, go ahead.
For the October actuarial meeting, we're proposing October 28th from 9 to 11.
Okay.
So I would encourage, obviously there's a lot of moving parts here, particularly Matt's availability. So I wanted to make sure that if we could cover the VPIC meeting, we could prioritize not moving things around, but certainly if people have issues that they want to make sure are understood, I would encourage communicating with Tim on that. Any additional comment on scheduling before we move on to the next agenda item? Seeing none, we're essentially right on target here. 2026 COLA update is the next item on the agenda. There is a memo outlining that in our packets. Follows the Northeast Region CPIU as far as I can tell, as well as the statutory provisions. Tim, would you like to provide additional color on this agenda item?
Sure. This is one, similarly, we have not historically moved this through a board motion. It's the statute is effectively self-executory. So every year after we get the June inflation numbers, we put this together, check it about 1,000 times, and then we like to present it to our boards before we put it up. As folks will likely recall, our inflation assumption is 2.3%. So this year, with inflation at 3%, that's going to reflect a modest loss, actuarial loss, due to inflation. But looking at where inflation has been, it had been kind of hovering in the mid upper threes through the earlier part of the year, kind of dipped down in June. I think it was at its lowest at 2.8 in May. News today, I wouldn't be surprised if we're sort of ticking back up. So from a not great from a individual personal financial perspective, obviously from a system perspective, to have a lower inflation number mitigates any losses we're going to take on that assumption. So, you know, otherwise helpful during the valuation.
Thank you, Tim. So recognizing this is really for our information, make sure we're all aware of it. Any additional comments on the COLA notice? Seeing none, the next item on our agenda is the disability retirements portion. There are two retirements in front of us today, KB and DM. I'm not sure if the board feels there's a need for executive session to discuss either of these matters. With that, I'll just put that out there. Would folks like to move into executive session to discuss either of these retirements?
Beth, you're muted.
Apologies. No, I have no need for executive session on these. Thank you.
Same, and I'm not seeing any other board members move to go into executive session. So with that, I'll ask Justin, should we take these one by one, or they're slightly different recommendations, so I'm thinking perhaps it's best to take them
I
one
agree.
at a time.
Just to put, I think we like to put the review period when there is one right in the motion for clarity.
Exactly. I was thinking the same. So the disability retirement for KB, the medical review board moves to approve the retirement with a 1-year review. What is the board's pleasure?
Approve the recommendation of the medical board.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you. All those in favor of approving the recommendation for KB signify with an aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed with a nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. And the medical review board's recommendation for KB is approved with a 1-year review period. The second disability retirement before us is DM. The Medical Review Board has moved to approve DM's disability retirement with without a future review. How would the board? Is there a motion the board would like to make? I will move that the board approve the recommendation of the Medical Review Board for DM.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Betsy. Any discussion? All those in favor of approving the Medical Review Board's recommendation for DM, please signify with an aye.
Aye.
All those opposed with a nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. The disability retirement for DM without a review period is approved. That brings us to our final item that is on the agenda, and that's any other business to come before the board. Does anyone have anything that they would like to bring to the board this month before we, before we conclude the meeting? I am not seeing any hands. So I think our business is likely concluded, and another motion may be in order.
I'll move to adjourn.
Thank you, Betsy. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, John. With that, the motion to adjourn is on the floor. It's not debatable. All those in favor of adjourning the September meeting of the Vermont State Employees Retirement System, please signify with an aye.
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 Bye.
Those opposed with a nay. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. With that, our business is concluded. Thank you all for joining this morning.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Take
everyone.
care.
Bye.